It's a little project that I'm doing for a class, but it's not just that. It's something that I want to make an impact and I want to actually make last, and something that's important to me and it's important to the world, I think, and for people to see. It seems really hard for people to focus on, the bigger picture these days. It's hard for people to stop senselessly killing each other over these pointless conflicts over gold, gold and diamonds, and just things that aren't important. It's human lives and living in society. It's important learning what it means to be you, and what it means to be me, and what it means to just live. That's what we're all trying to figure out. That's why we can't just ignore this planet. We can't ignore the fact that climate change is happening. It's affecting each and every single one of us every day. And it affects animals and trees and the atmosphere and the whole world. It affects everything. It affects every single thing on this planet. We can't be using our finite resources. We have to depend on renewable energy now. We have to make the change. We have to make the switch. We have to make it happen. Otherwise, we're not going to gain anything. And this change doesn't happen overnight. It's an ongoing process. It takes time, and it takes people and effort and a group of people coming together and saying, I can do this, you can do this. We can come together and we can just make it happen. So we all know now that we're trapping greenhouse gas, and because of that, we're melting polar ice caps, we're causing erosions, we're causing tornadoes, and it's all changing, and storms are increasing, and we're getting really hot summers, we're getting really cold winters, and they're lasting longer. There's predictions that the global temperature is going to rise by 10 degrees Fahrenheit by the end of this century. That means water supplies are going to die, it increases the spread of diseases, and affects all forms of life. So let's turn to the major world powers, the people that have all the money and the control, and let's say, hey, we need to stand up, we need to make this happen, we need to make the change happen. Otherwise, what are we going to be doing? We're going to be standing here, sitting around, with thumbs in our hand, and we're just not going to do, nothing's going to happen. Major world powers contribute 70% of emissions. Of those powers, the US is responsible for 25% of total global emissions. That is 50% higher than Europe or Japan. We are 5 times higher than the global average. And while there's people spending billions and billions of dollars on military funding and spending billions more on fencing, there's actual shit going on. There's actual problems going on. There's people dying. There's conflicts still happening. The world is still changing. It's still moving. It's still getting stuck. But as humans, as a society, we can make the change happen. We can come together and we can realize that nothing is lost. Everything can be gained. We can gain it back. We just have to work together. We have to put our heads together and just make it happen. There's solutions to this, I promise. I'm just some person sitting here, music going in the background and talking, and hopefully anyone listens. I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but refrigerants, your refrigerator puts out a lot of CO2, carbon emissions, and it's causing this big planetary trouble, when millions of people are using it and millions of people are doing it at the same time. It's all pumping out hydrofluorocarbons and chlorofluorocarbons, which the potential warms the atmosphere from 1,000 to 9,000 times greater than carbon dioxide. That's a lot. It's a lot. Well, thankfully, we're starting to phase out these refrigerants. We're using natural gases such as propane and ammonia. The Did you know that 90% of the emission happens at disposal? So if we carefully remove and take the time to store them, we spend the extra money to store them. They can be purified and recycled. And that can reduce the greenhouse gas emission by 89 gigatons of CO2 by 2050. It takes time, it does, but that's what you have to look forward to. That's what you have to look to, is the fact that within 20 years, it'll make a big change. You just have to keep on going at it, keep on making it happen. Wind turbines. The fossil fuel industry received more than $5.3 trillion in 2015. The U.S. wind industry received $12.3 billion since 2000. We need to stop funding so much money towards these industries that only contribute negative things and bad energy and emissions. And, to stop those emissions, we have to make electric vehicles more widely accessible. All the technology is there. The industry is just so overpowered by one person, one industry, that it's hard for anyone else to even think about competing and getting their technology out there that could actually help the world. Thankfully, as of today, there are 314,000 wind turbines that supply about 3.7% of the global energy. That's a lot. Did you know that in Kansas, North Dakota, and Texas alone, the potential for wind energy there would be enough to meet electricity demand from coast to coast in the U.S.? Coast to coast. Let's make that happen. We can make these interconnected grids that work together and that talk to each other to say, hey, we'll supply this part, you'll supply that part, and then we'll all just work together eventually, and it works. And we're making new turbine ideas and designs, and there's ongoing cost reductions, and it's getting less expensive. The more we actually try and come together and make it happen, it's getting less expensive. I don't need to worry about it. There's work to be done, though. There always is. The fossil fuel industry needs to start gradually decreasing. We need to stop using our cars and figure out some sort of other transportation. I don't know what it is, but there's tons of ideas out there, and we just need to use them, elaborate on them, and take advantage of them. If we were to increase our wind energy from 3 to 4% to 21.6%, that could result in greenhouse gas reduction of 84.6 gigatons by 2050. And it would cost about $1 trillion, but it's falling because it's more widely accessible. That has a lot of potential for changing the world and for changing how we view energy and how we would work together to make change happen. And the last things I want to talk about is food waste. I work in a restaurant, and I see every day how much food actually goes to waste and how much of it just gets emptied down in the trash and doesn't even make it on the plates. It just gets thrown away. It's not. That could be going to so many places and so many homeless shelters, and it just doesn't. It just goes away. Out of sight, out of mind. The problem is that a third of food raised or prepared doesn't even make it from the farm or factory to the fork. The hunger condition of life is there for about 800 million people worldwide. They don't have food. And when we reduce that food waste by 2050, we would reduce about 70.53 gigatons of CO2 by 2050. All this adds up. All of it makes a difference. All of it does. People have to see that. They have to see that over time these changes happen. It doesn't happen in one day or one night or 1 week or a month or a year. It takes decades of working together and making it happen. Let's make it happen.